Alright, so I have the dart all torn apart. The subframe is dropped, the old rack is right here, and we got the new used rack that I got from the junkyard back there. That's what we're going to swap in today. We're going to see if we can make it work. We're going to see if this is an option, like a DIY option, without having to spend $2,000 for a new dealer rack that's never been installed before. So I will link down in the description instructions on how to do this. I have followed all the instructions, and honestly it's pretty straightforward. It was the factory service information that someone just copy and pasted into a forum, so it's all the stuff the dealers had. It's pretty simple to follow. Good thing about this car is the engine is mounted to the upper frame, so it's not to the subframe at all, or the K-member if that's what you call it. So you don't have to worry about the engine falling on you. You do have to remove the transmission mount in the back, the rear transmission mount. So the engine's going to rotate a little bit, but just go slow, and you're not going to have anything like falling on you or anything. So a common theme going around in forums on these darts for swapping a used rack into a car is, can you just swap over the computer parts? Because if you look at the diagram of the rack, the internals is all just mechanical parts, and then the computer seems to be what's right in here. A lot of people say it's this. I believe this is just the motor, though. I believe all this is just the motor that actually spins the gears in here to give you that power steering. This, under this cover, is the steering wheel angle sensor, I believe. Steering angle sensor, I think that's what the correct word. This looks more like a clock spring, like what's behind the airbag or the horn in the steering wheel. Now, I could not figure out how to pull this out. I don't know if it can be disassembled. There's a bolt back here and a bolt on the underside, and the bolt over here, it was just stripping. I could not get it out, and the bolt on the underside just has fluid behind it, and I didn't want to just completely make a mess. But I don't see any way to get this actually out of here, because once you unplug the wiring and you take the plastic clip out in the corner here, it doesn't just slide off. So I'm led to believe that this can't come out. I mean, there must be like maybe a C-clip or something like that, but I really don't see any way to get this out. And the problem with the rack on this car is racks are not reprogrammable for some reason. You have to buy a new OEM straight from the Chrysler dealer power steering rack that's never been installed before, never been programmed or married to a car. What a huge bummer. So we're going to throw in the used rack now, and from my understanding, all that should happen is there should be just a steering wheel light on the dash that says, it's basically like a check power steering light, and other than that, everything should work. So we'll see. And if power steering doesn't work but there's no noise, then at the very least we know it was a bad rack. Because if you heard the noise in the earlier video, it's bad. And I tried looking at the tie rods. The tie rods don't look bad. The only thing I can really tell is it only happens when it's on the ground, when there's weight on it, and then you can kind of feel the whole rack just like shifting violently like that. It's not loose in the subframe or anything like that. There is no way for it to be loose like that. It's not mounted with poly mounts or anything like that, so something is binding. And when you try to turn the steering or the wheels by your hand with the front end off the ground, it's difficult. You might have actually seen in the last video, I had to use almost my full body weight to get it to turn. So that's what I'm going off of. So let's go throw the new rack onto the subframe and figure out how to get the subframe back up by myself. Alright, managed to get my trans jack under the subframe while it's under the car. Definitely the preferred way would be to put 2 floor jacks on each side of the subframe and then roll it under and then jack it up and get the trans jack under. The creeper just didn't work. It was a little too tall. So it's in. So now I just gotta jack it up, get the bolts in. So once I get it all bolted up, I'll get back to you. Alright, it is dark now. I got the car together, minus some things like the front frame supports, which you obviously can't see, but it's enough to start. I did put the exhaust on because I didn't want this to be too loud. I couldn't hear the noise or anything like that. Let me get a light in here. Alright. And start it up. So, as you should be able to hear, you can't hear a noise. There is no noise. We do see the steering light here. This is what I was expecting, unfortunately. Stored messages. Yeah, let me go to stored messages. See if I can read it. Stored messages. Service power steering. And washer fluid low. Okay. Service power steering. Yeah, that's the only thing it's showing. Now I do have a scan tool that can read SRS. Wait, SRS is airbags, so never mind. I don't have a power steering scanner. I've got a friend coming over that will be able to read, but basically if you look at the code, it's gonna say cannot communicate or something because it's a used power steering rack and it's not programmed to this VIN number of this car's BCM. Now, is there a workaround? I'm gonna spend a couple days trying to figure out if there's a way to get rid of this and trick it. And I don't know if it would be possible. Like, it could be as much as just pulling the dash out or the gauge cluster out and removing the wire that powers this LED strip for the power steering light. So I don't know. Although if I did do that, it would still display in the center area, so who knows. So I didn't really show much of any of the removal or install process of the rack. It really is pretty straightforward. Yeah, there really wasn't anything too challenging or difficult to get it out. And all in all, it didn't take that long. Like, could have had it in and out of the car in about 6 hours, and that's kind of, you know, taking my time and stopping for a quick little lunch break in between. So not too bad. And if you had 2 people, it can definitely go a lot quicker, so much quicker. Yeah, so let me know at this point, would you be able to live with the light being on the dash like that, or would you rather fork over $2,000+ for a new OEM power steering rack that you know is gonna last at least 100,000 miles or whatever they're supposed to last, and it would have no codes on the dash? But I don't know. Is it really worth spending $2,000+ just to get rid of a light that really doesn't do anything? That's someone's decision to make. Alright, let's move this dart. Ugh. Ooh, almost hit the Corvette. That's neutral. This one you actually have to put the foot on the clutch. Alright. Still got the service power steering light. That light's always going to be on. It is what it is. Let's see how it drives. No noise, so that's fantastic. This is my first actual drive, but I'm just moving just into my driveway. Oh, you know what? I was reading that the odometer would flash. There we go. Yeah. So that means it needs a basic relearn done, and then it won't flash anymore. Alright. Yeah, that's driving good. I'm gonna turn it off and back in. But yeah, seems to be doing good.